All right, everyone, welcome. We're going to be getting underway in just a few minutes. Wow, Julie Buckingham, way cool. Jerry, good to see Kate. Tabitha, Sandra, welcome. Just going to give people another minute or two to file into the virtual meeting room. Looks like a nice, small, casual group. This is excellent. And I don't know about any of you, but the weather in New England today is extraordinarily terrific. So if you're experiencing good weather and you're here, I am very, very, very grateful for your being here. All right. Check the time. All right, I've got a couple minutes after the hour. Nice to have you all joining us. My name is David Hiltz, and I am currently the volunteer director for the Citizen CPR Foundation's HEARTSafe Community Program. And this is the HEARTSafe Champions webinar. This is held, as many of you know, for those repeat offenders. This is conducted every second Tuesday of the month from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As a reminder, your microphones will be muted and we will open them up during the questions and hopefully answers phase of this afternoon's webinar. So let's see if we can get the gods of technology to cooperate with us in advancing the slides. There we go. Most of you who have been on the webinars in the past know that this is really focused on our subject matter experts who we have on as guests, and that I do not read slides, but I do want to share with you the important mission of the Citizen CPR Foundation and call out the three core values that we abide by, and that we know that CPR provided by bystanders and rapid defibrillation, this combination saves lives. We also know that there's plenty of room for collaboration among citizens, professionals, communities, and organizations to help improve survival from sudden cardiac arrest. And that action based on best practices in science, education, and implementation will most certainly improve outcomes. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize our supporters and partners at the Citizen CPR Foundation. They are listed here for you. Without their generous support, this webinar and all of our activities around improving sudden cardiac arrest survival would not be possible. So big call out and shout out to our partners for their ongoing support. Typically, I make announcements on behalf of the group. I will remind you that to this date, and we are almost a year into these, that I have not received a single request for an announcement from any of you. And I know that particularly with this webinar, folks tend to come month to month. Folks on this call tend to be like you. So if you're having an event, a virtual event, in-person event moving forward, right, please let us know about it so that we can help spread the good word, right? And along those very same lines, I would like to remind you to mark your calendars for December 7th through 10th in an almost always sunny San Diego. for the Cardiac Arrest Survival Summit, likely the world's largest concentration and gathering of resuscitationists and cardiac arrest survivors anywhere in the world. Regretfully, the abstract period is now closed, but we all get the opportunity to cash in on the major benefit, and that's attending the actual conference in San Diego this December. And I'm hoping to see many, if not all of you there. Now, a quick word about what's coming in the future. Now, don't hold me to any of this, but just to give you an idea, we do have a confirmation from Tony Walker from Ambulance Victoria, who's going to talk about excellence in public reporting, the Ambulance Victoria experience. We're also going to take some time just prior to the summer months here in the United States to talk about drowning. If I can pull this off, I'm going to be curious to see what a forensic scientist perspective is on sudden cardiac arrest. This is Dr. Henry Lee. We're going to talk about some novel approaches to citizen CPR education. I know that we're all very eager to get into that. National CPR and AED Awareness Week, ramping up for that. That's the first week in June. Holy cow, if I can get Bill Shatner to come on to talk about how that program, Rescue 911, was very influential with the public and getting them acclimated to 911. Hey, look, what am I saying here? Be sure to stay tuned for upcoming webinars. We're hoping to keep up a very brisk and exciting pace with all of you. As a reminder, please capture your questions using the chat function so that we have an inventory of them to cover when we get to the Q&A period with our very, very special guest, who I'm getting ready to introduce to you in just a moment. You know, you can tell just by looking at me, I'm not old, but perhaps I am chronologically challenged. You know, it's interesting when I'm thinking about you know, this whole concept of today's webinar and kind of a look to the future or what may have been the future in my past, right? And so I remember, if I could get the slide to go here, I remember sitting in a classroom at Northeastern University as a student in the early 1980s. And one of the lecturers we had was this fabulous guy named Alistar Khan, who was the head of the emergency department at Massachusetts General Hospital. And he talked to us about evolving technology in emergency medicine and EMS. And he talked about all of these kind of what were kind of foreign notions back then about like crash detection technology, and that, you know, in the future, cars would be heavily equipped with lots of technology that could, you know, not only do automatic crash notification, but predict various injuries based on historical data, impact data, so on and so forth. And, you know, over the years, it's interesting as I've watched a lot of Dr. Khan's kind of predictions, or at least what I had perceived as predictions back in the early 1980s as being, you know, fact. Wow, this is really happening. And so, you know, now we're getting close to being able to introduce our special guest, but it's like in my years being involved in emergency medicine, EMS, education, advocacy, et cetera, I've worked a lot on issues related to 911 reform. And in my own state of Rhode Island, and I will say this, it does not represent the opinion or position of the Citizen CPR Foundation, my employer Code 1, or any of the organizations that I'm affiliated with. But I will tell you that 911 reform is not an easy thing to accomplish, right? And in Rhode Island, in my own state of Rhode Island, Up until recently, I stood a pretty good chance of being put on hold when calling 911 during surge periods and things of this nature. There are things that go on which are unconscionable. So I step down off of the soapbox for a moment now and bring up OnStar. And so in my own state of Rhode Island, I still am not fully assured that I will get telephone guided CPR assistance from a trained emergency telecommunicator on the other end of the phone when I call in the state of Rhode Island. But if I hit the OnStar button and a GM car, I am going to get that level of service and sophistication, which led to this kind of 1.5 year long journey of having discussions with OnStar about coming on the show and sharing some of their incredible work with you, my most important audience, right? So it's at this point where I'm going to introduce our incredible guest and turn the controls over to her. But I will say that, and I've got like printed material here on this incredibly professional guest. Shar has over 15 years of training and emergency operations experience, and she is with the Global Emergency Services Outreach Leadership Program at General Motors and OnStar, supporting Canada and global regions in educating the emergency services community on OnStar technologies, services offered, and so on and so forth. She is, I will tell you, an extraordinary young woman, having spent some time with her preparing for the show today. And I'm not going to say anything more because she has some incredible content to share with you. So I need to execute a few technology tricks here to allow her to present and we can get underway. Shar, thanks so much for joining us. Please go ahead and bring up your slides, and we are ready for your incredible presentation.
Well, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I hope I live up to your expectations on this call. As David mentioned, I've been with OnStar for about 12 years, so 15 years, and I have been tied to the emergency services department or role beyond that. I'm married to a Toronto police officer. So emergency services is kind of in my DNA by choice. And I just fell into this role with GM and love every bit of it, educating and informing public safety about what we do when it comes to emergency services. Just give me one moment here. Let me move some things around so I can see. So just to give you a little bit of background, my apologies, I'm navigating technology here. So OnStar was launched in 1996 and it's owned by GM Holdings. We offer emergency security and navigation services in Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac vehicles. We offer a range of safety and security services such as automatic crash response, emergency services through our emergency button, key press, and stolen vehicle assistance. We recently also launched our OnStar emergency services in a mobile app so that you could take OnStar with you anywhere you go and everywhere you go. We do have over 6 million customers in Canada and the US. So just a real quick view at the agenda of what I'm going to talk about and give you a little bit of information about OnStar. I'm really going to focus on our emergency advisors, the training that they receive, and the tools that they have at their fingertips when they're helping in emergency situations. I'll talk through the emergency medical dispatch call handling process that we have, and then just give you a little bit of highlights in terms of the CPR cases that we've handled over the in 2020. And then we'll move on to some questions. And I do have some cool videos to share. They're really short and sweet. So it'll give you a little bit of insight into our advisors, our training programs, as well as our call handling process. So how does OnStar work? Well, OnStar is an embedded system that's available in all GM models as mentioned. And GM vehicles are built with crash sensors, airbags, and a red and blue button that has a direct access to a live advisor 24/7. So we don't sleep, we're always on from an OnStar perspective. The vehicle's location is updated using GPS satellite, and it's generated from either a crash sensor going off in the vehicle or a button press triggered from inside the vehicle. The vehicle's location and data from the vehicle is then sent to one of our specially trained emergency advisors. And our emergency advisors are certified in emergency medical dispatch through the IAED. And we are an accredited center of excellence as well. So we're ACE accredited. Our advisors will triage the situation and then connect the customer to the appropriate 911 center using our PSAP boundaries that are built into our mapping system. In order for OnStar's services to work, we do require that we have active connection to the vehicle. So in order to have that, our customers have an active service plan. We have to have cellular connectivity and battery power. So those are three crucial components that's required in order for the OnStar system to work. And our services are a subscription-based services that's offered to all GM customers. So as mentioned, in order for us to assist, we do need that active service plan, we do need that cellular connectivity, we do need that battery power. And when all of those things are connected, we are able to provide response to emergency situations. So situations that we would respond to, it does involve vehicle crashes. So you can see the vehicle there, our Camaro, it's really pretty beaten up. That's an actual image of a vehicle that was involved in a crash, and through the technology in the vehicle as well as the sensors and the OnStar's advisor's response to this, the driver of that vehicle walked away unharmed. And then obviously the buttons inside the vehicle, you've got your red and blue button. The red button, SOS button, is your direct link to an emergency advisor. Our blue button provides you with other types of concierge services, such as directions from a navigation standpoint, where's the closest coffee shop, things of that nature. And most recently, as I mentioned, we've launched our mobile app that you can take OnStar with you anywhere you go in any vehicle, and the app on your phone will do the job for you in helping to contact OnStar. So some of you may wonder, and this is a question we get all the time, why would customers or why would people use OnStar rather than picking up their phone and calling directly? Because everybody has a cell phone with them everywhere they go. Well, sometimes, especially in crashes, your cell phone can go flying and it's nowhere near your reach. And so the automatic crash sensors will stimulate that call into an emergency advisor, and your help is already on the line in process in getting it there to you. From an emergency in the vehicle standpoint, it's the push of a button that you can always reach, especially if you're seat belted in your car seat. It's a hand raise and you can push a button and you can get help. The location accuracy of OnStar versus a 911 mobile device today is it provides a much more accurate location based on the vehicle. And if you're familiar with the 911 centers, next gen 911 is an emerging technology that's coming to improve locations of a 911 caller calling in from a mobile device. But as of right now, our GPS satellite signals from the vehicle gives us a more accurate location of the actual incident. We do have hands-free communication, so it doesn't violate distracted driving laws. So you can talk to an OnStar advisor without having to pick up your phone and dial a number. And of course, as mentioned, our advisors are EMD certified. So what is at the other end of that button press or that collision sensor? We're all live advisors that are specially trained, available 24/7. Our advisors assess and triage the situation, and they're able to connect to the 911 center quickly. Some may feel like this, this might be delaying help in calling 911, but when we get into talking about the EMD process and our call handling process, you'll get to understand a little bit better that we're really not delaying help. If anything, we're expediting help in certain manners. Our advisors are also able to route members to hospitals and other emergency service areas that they may be trying to get to. And keep in mind, customers sometimes will push that red button looking for directions to a hospital because there's a loved one that's in the hospital that's very ill and they're trying to get there quickly. So our emergencies don't necessarily have to only involve a crash or a medical situation. It's basically any emergency that our member feels like is an emergency for them. We're there to help them no matter what. So how do we prepare our advisors for training? Well, our advisors go through extensive training just to take a call and then beyond that. So we are constantly doing continuous training with them to help reinforce and improve their call handling efforts. So a new advisor coming into the OnStar Center as an emergency advisor, they would go through 2 weeks of general OnStar training. Then they would begin 5 weeks of emergency onboarding training, which includes CPR certification and EMD certification through the IAED. We then have them go through a nesting period of 4 weeks where they're handling calls and going through additional training focused specifically on EMD call types. Now, those call types can range from anything from delivering a baby to a sick person in the vehicle to CPR and anything and everything in between. Our continuing education approach when it comes to emergency call handling, our advisors go through continuing education training each month, which includes practical hands-on training of those high-risk, low-frequency call types. So for instance, we may not necessarily get a CPR call every day, but an advisor may get one once in every 3 months. And it's one of those muscle memories, if you use it or lose it type thing. So we like to build on that muscle memory so that when they do get that call, they're prepared. And we've eliminated that freeze moment from a telecommunicator standpoint or advisor standpoint where they hear something on the other end and they freeze for those milliseconds before they pull themselves together and begin going through the prescribed protocols that the IAED has set out for us. So we put them through this practical training each quarter to keep their skills fresh and moving. And it's really helped a lot for the advisors, especially when it comes to handling these CPR calls, baby delivery calls. We've delivered a lot of babies in our time in the vehicle, and it seems to be now a second nature for us. The CDEs, we also put them through continuing education courses that are put out by the International Academy of Emergency Dispatch, which is a requirement for them to maintain their certification. And every 2 years, the advisors have to be recertified in those medical dispatch, in medical EMD. In order to help them with their call handling, they go through a lot of coaching and call review sessions as well. So they play back and listen to the calls that they've handled, and then they'll have a coach sit with them and talk through the call and provide them with feedback. They receive 4 of those a month. And in addition to that, they will go through coaching and call review sessions with our emergency medical dispatch medical director, Dr. Paul Stiegler. So there's a lot of work that goes into preparing these advisors for the calls that they handle from an OnStar perspective. They're handling calls across Canada and the US. So they're getting any kind of call you can imagine from any geographical location across North America that you could imagine. And We have been accredited Center of Excellence since 2013. We've been doing EMD since 2010. But don't take my word for it when it comes to the advisors and their training and the value it brings to them. I'm going to share with you a video now that will give you that full picture.
So when we come to the emergency team, we go through a lot of training on how to handle mapping, looking at roads, different intersections.
We're constantly run through scenarios on the floor, so we get a lot of hands-on training throughout our day.
We go through training on compassion, reassurance.
I'll go out to my car and then I'll go through an entire role play scenario of somebody that needs CPR or somebody that's having a baby. And the advisor usually has no idea that it's me. They get to experience what, the emotional level that you would have on a real call because they think it's real the whole time until the end when I tell them it's not. It's great to know that with just a push of the button, you'll be able to talk to somebody who is trained and knows exactly how to help you.
So that's just a little tidbit from our advisors and the training that they received. And they're all very passionate about what they do, and they really feel the value in helping people on the other end. So we prepare them through training. We coach. We do a lot of continuing education, practical training. Some of the things that we also provide for advisors to help them help our customers, the technology tools and support we offer beyond the EMD training and certification. They have GPS location and aerial imagery tools at their fingertips that helps them to navigate the map system and provide public safety, the 911 center, with accurate location of the vehicle, providing landmarks, whatever they need, especially in areas that may not be as populated as an urban area. They're able to provide, landmarks of the geographical location. We have a proprietary database of the PSAPs that's that's overlaying the boundaries onto our mapping system. So they don't have to research and second guess which PSAP or which emergency communication center they're calling. It's literally at their fingertip based on the location that's coming in from the vehicle. We also provide them with real-time information on weather and amber alerts, so things like hurricanes, forest fires. So they have the ability to help people in those emergency situations. Even as far as, when we had our, severe hurricane season, folks couldn't get oxygen, and we would be able to assist with locating places where they could go and get oxygen, or contacting pharmacies. Can't find a gas station, we would help them find that as well. We do have bilingual advisors. In our Canadian Oshawa site, we have French and English advisors that support our French callers. And in our North Carolina Charlotte site, we do have Spanish advisors as well. But for all other languages, just like a typical ECC, we do leverage the language line for support. In addition to our 24/7 advisors, we have a command center that is monitoring everything that you can imagine 24/7 as well. So if something is happening from a weather perspective, the command center is providing the advisors with the information that they need for customers within a specific geographical location. Our advisors also have access to a suicide and crisis prevention hotline. We do handle and field a lot of calls involving suicides, so they have that resource available to them to provide the necessary assistance, as well as access to poison control. One of the things that is really important for our advisors is for them to have the support to debrief and decompress after a very critical call. And this is where we have our CISM peer support program. So our motto is be safe out there to everyone and our customers. But for our call takers, we want them to be safe in here. We want them to be safe within our walls of handling the calls. So through that program, we have certified peer support leaders through the ICISF. We have access to local resources for additional professional help. access to mental health information that we refresh frequently for them just to keep things moving. And at both of our sites where emergency calls are handled, they have access to a quiet room, which allows them the opportunity to step away from a trigger call, regroup, meditate, de-stress, and meet with a peer support leader if they'd like to. So these are all the tools and support and technology that we have for advisors at their fingertips. So now I'm going to take you through our call handling process for our emergency medical dispatch calls. When we get a call coming in from the vehicle, our emergency advisor greets them, triages the situation, and determines what's required. When the advisor identifies that there's a need for EMD, so it could be that there is somebody having difficulty breathing, somebody having chest pains, pregnancy where they're having contractions and they're really close and the baby's on its way, our advisor who answered the initial call would conference in a second advisor, and we call them the EMD advisor. So this is where I mentioned before that sometimes we get the question of, are we delaying help? Are we delaying the call getting to 911? And the answer is no, and here's why. Our advisor that takes the initial call, when they conference in a partner, a second advisor, that second advisor remains on the line with the customer and begins EMD call handling and goes through the prescribed protocols that have been provided by the IAED, following them verbatim, word for word to a T, to assess the patient, what is the medical situation, and provide the necessary instructions depending on whatever's happening from a medical perspective. While that is happening, the first advisor who initially received the call, that advisor then contacts the emergency services center or the 911 center and provides them with the information about the emergency situation. Simultaneously, while the EMD caller is on the line with the customer providing assistance, and the first advisor is on the line with the public safety with 911, they are sharing information back and forth using instant messaging. As PSAP's asking a question, as a dispatcher is asking a question, they'll be sharing information with the EMD advisor and vice versa. So this just goes to show you how this two-way process, you don't have one person helping you when you call us, you've got two people helping you. So the next slide that I'm going to share, it's actually a simulated example of how our call handling occurs when we're dealing with an EMD caller.
Onstar Emergency, this is Teresa. We've received a signal you've been in a crash. Are there any injuries?
Yes, help me, please.
I have you located at River Road, just north of Box Road in Grand Rapids, Ohio. Is this Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
I will contact the 911 center now to get help for you right away. I will bring my partner on the line. She will assist you while I get help for you.
Okay, I'm on the right shoulder. Please help.
Mr. Simpson, Virginia will assist you while I contact the 911 center. Go ahead, Virginia.
Mr. Simpson, I understand you've been involved in an accident. Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I was driving home from work. A deer jumped out in front of me. I swerved to avoid it, but hit a tree instead.
How many other people were hurt?
So just me. I'm the only one in the car.
911, where's your emergency?
This is Onstar Emergency. Is River Road and Box Road in Grand Rapids, Ohio in your jurisdiction?
Yes, what's going on there?
No.
I'm reporting a single vehicle injury accident with airbag deployment on the right shoulder of River Road, just north of Box Road. The vehicle struck a tree, and our crash data indicates there is a high likelihood of severe injury.
What kind of injuries?
The driver believes he has a broken leg and is complaining of a head injury. My partner is in the middle of providing emergency medical dispatch.
Do you have a determinant code?
Yes, the determinant code is 29 Bravo 1,
Okay.
Do not explain.
What type of...
13 Malibu. Our OnStar case number is 4604. Do you need our callback number?
Yes, go ahead.
The number is 866 again, 5006.
Thanks. I have EMS on the way.
Help is on the way, Mr. Simpson. Don't have anything to eat or drink. It might make you sick or cause problems for the doctor. Don't move around unless it's absolutely necessary. Just be still and wait for help to arrive. I'll stay on the line. If anything changes, let me know. Tell me when the first responders are right there with you.
The ambulance is here with me now. Thank you.
Okay, please know we're here whenever you need us.
All right, so that is an example of how the call process flows through when we have a situation coming from the vehicle that involves EMD or that requires EMD. So just to give you a couple of highlights in terms of the cardiac arrest response that we've had, and these are stats from 2020. We followed the IAED protocols to assess and provide the patient care. We leveraged the EMD protocols in over 2,000 incidents. So that's leveraging the protocol to assess the situation. Out of that, we have delivered pre-arrival instructions approximately 167 times in 2020. And those pre-arrival instructions could, the breakdown of that could be anything from choking, vehicle accidents with not awake and not breathing scenarios, seizures, overdoses, heart issues, and baby deliveries. The amount of times that we had to execute CPR, hands-on chest instructions, where that we provided callers were 33 times last year. So those are pretty, 33 times hands-on chest rather quickly. We don't know, obviously, the outcome of those situations because we never do know that. Just like 911 centers, we don't get closure unless somebody calls back to say, thank you, OnStar, you saved my life, or you saved my father's life, my grandfather, my grandmother. We don't know what the end result was, but we know 33 times we executed CPR that potentially saved somebody's life. And for us, that's a huge win if we were able to prolong life even just for a moment, for ambulance and first responders to arrive.
Mm-hmm.
The other beautiful thing about our advisors, and the next, I'm going to share another quick video with you. The other beautiful thing about our advisors is that they're always ready, whether they're at work, on the phone, or on vacation at a trailer park. So this next story just really, when I first heard it, it gave me chills. I had the opportunity to interview the advisor who had this experience. And it really just kind of spoke to the type of people that we have helping our customers on the over the phone in emergency situations all the time. And it's one of those things that gives us great joy.
I was just making breakfast in my trailer, and then I heard people screaming, and I ran into the trailer, and the mom was on the ground holding her dead, lifeless baby. He was so gray and blue around his lips. I just grabbed the baby out of her hands, and I just started doing compressions on him, and his color instantly started changing. He started breathing, started crying, making noises. I had to do something. It definitely gives me a better perspective of what's going on in the situation and all the good Samaritans that are there that want to help. It gives me that focus. We have to remain calm. We need to do whatever we can to help them.
And so I'll share a little interesting story about that situation. She was engaged to be married, and so she asked the baby's mother if he could be her ring bearer, and Benjamin ended up walking down the aisle as her ring bearer at her wedding. So what else is going on with OnStar? Well, we've got a lot of exciting things coming your way. We are expanding our OnStar services, as I mentioned, to include family members and loved ones outside of GM vehicles and beyond the vehicles. So in addition to our embedded system in the GM vehicles, we now have OnStar customers and their families taking advantage of another safety service called Guardian, our Onstar Guardian App, which can help in a crash or an emergency situation, supported by the same emergency certified advisors, and with the call handling and triaging and all the wonderful things our advisors do. It's available to non-GM drivers as well. It's a Guardian app that can be downloaded through the App Store or Google Play. And you can visit our website for more information at onstar.com regarding the Guardian app, including features and service plans and all of that fun stuff. We're constantly looking for different ways and new ways to help people out there to be safe out there. And we have a great passion for what we do. And we will continue to do this for many years to come. And on that note, that's the end of my presentation.
That was extraordinary. Well done. Bravo. I see that some very interesting questions have been posed by some of our very seasoned attendees. In fact, one of them is a past guest on the show and comes from the emergency telecommunication profession. So I would ask that Mallory takes some of the questions from chat, and we can get going with some questions and answers and dialogue. It's a small group, so we should have some good conversation in the remaining 20 minutes or close to that.
Sounds good. Now, I'll just say I'm not an expert on the EMD protocol anymore because I'm out of operations and doing all this wonderful stuff. So I can't very well speak to the actual protocols and the descriptions of what the actions are that the advisors take, but I can speak to how we operationalize them.
Yeah, and Shard, Jerry Overton's on the call too. So so we can involve him. So Mallory, make sure that Jerry is unmuted as well.
Great. I've gone ahead actually, Julie, and giving you access to speak. So if you want to go ahead and ask a couple of your questions, go for it.
Julie, come on.
Okay. Well, I'll start with my last question, which was, what is the one or two things that the 911 centers can do to work better with you when you have a call for cardiac arrest and we're trying to get units headed that way?
So I understand the question is, what can the 911 centers do to help work with us better when it comes to these cardiac arrest situations, correct?
Correct.
You know, it's one of those things where we've been working really hard to educate 911 centers across the US and Canada on the services that we provide and our EMD, the level and depth that goes into the EMD that we provide. We want 911 centers to be comfortable in knowing that we are doing the same level of care and work that they would be doing if they were the ones responding with the EMD protocols. And trusting our advisors that they know what they're doing and that they have the proper training to deliver the EMD protocols as they are laid out and provide that care and assistance. It's probably the best thing. We have had instances where 911 centers would respond to us when we first started doing this back in 2010 that, you know, no, we want to do the EMD ourselves, put us on the line with the caller. And at this point, we could have already been, you know, doing compressions for 60 seconds already. So it's basically when you get that call with an Onstar advisor, feel free to ask any questions about what's going on in terms from an EMD standpoint, because the caller that's on our EMD advisor that would be on the call with you will be able to tell you where they are in a protocol in terms of delivering that protocol to give you the information you need to dispatch accordingly. and trust that we've gone through extensive training and we continue to do that to provide the services.
Excellent. Jerry, would you add anything?
No, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
No, she's absolutely correct. They're an accredited center of excellence, and the fact of the matter is they have some of the highest compliance percentages with the protocol that we see as far as here at IAED. What she failed to mention, which I will mention, is the fact that in the last several years, 2 other EMDs have been actually the dispatchers of the year with IAED because of the fact that not only are they highly compliant, but they have actually saved lives, as far as one was a pregnancy call and the other was a cardiac arrest call. So their EMDs are absolutely superb. The other thing I would add is that the fact is their medical director, Paul Stigler, is intimately involved with our Medical Council of Standards. And so we interface with OnStar on a regular basis. They're an absolutely fabulous partner.
Thank you for bringing up the dispatcher of the years, Jerry. If I had said that, I wouldn't have had anything for you to plug for us. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. And like a couple of things are emerging here, and Shar as well. The whole idea of the internship and the nesting, right? Hands-on medical direction. I mean, these are envious in almost anything in medicine. So way cool. Julie, I have a suspicion that you're not done yet and you've got a follow-up question. Am I correct?
I might have put a couple more in there.
Yeah.
So another question I have is around data. And, one of the behaviors that we always promote that systems adopt and more mature systems are starting to adopt is looking at patient care, not from the moment EMS arrived or they in their silo took care of that patient, but from the moment that that patient accessed the system. So in this case, it would be when they access your call center and your agents. So do you ever, or are you willing to share data with systems if they had a call that came in from you to know at what time was that system were you accessed? At what point did you recognize the arrest, and at what point in the call, how far into the call was CPR actually started?
Yeah, so if you give me 1 second, I can share some data with you at a very high level in terms of, on average, when it comes to our CPR calls, how long it takes us to identify the need for CPR, position the patient for CPR, and begin hands on chest. So we have an average of 93 seconds from start to hands on chest, from the moment it's identified that compressions are needed to actually start compressions. So identifying the need for CPR. So from that initial question of tell me exactly what happened, we've been averaging around 37 seconds on average to identify what care is needed when it comes to cardiac arrest. The positioning of the patient for CPR. So keep in mind our callers are coming in from a vehicle. So it requires at times to remove the patient from the vehicle and get them flat on the ground. That's averaging around 27 seconds. And then the positioning from positioning to hands on chest and starting compressions is about 29 seconds on average, which gives us a 93 second time frame from the time of tell me exactly what happened to getting compression started, hands on chest.
That's really phenomenal. And, I think that's just really a testament to the excellent training and ongoing QI and training structure that you have there. And it's really clear why you're an ace. So bravo, well done.
Yeah. Yeah. Julie, I was very impressed when Shar shared some of that data with me earlier today. Amazing. And another thing that I would say is that, I wish we actually had more time. The positioning remark that Shar made and the exercising that they do around that, from her colleagues over a year ago, I discovered that advisors are routinely involved in physical exercise, not at the, the screen, but actually, moving like I hate to use a proprietary product name, but like a Rescue Randy out of the passenger seat in the car, out of the car, down onto the ground, so that they gain a better appreciation of what the customers are going through on the other end of the button. In this case. So everything I've heard about OnStar has been really exceptionally extraordinary, right? So awesome. Julie, do you have other questions? Your questions have been terrific.
No, you basically answered the one about process. So my question that I had put in, actually, as you started talking about it, was from the moment that you get the activation, do you have to have a chief complaint before you access your link to 911, or is it enough to know that this is a medical call?
It's enough to know that this is a medical call, and this is where it's kind of debunking that myth that we delay help or we delay getting that call, placing that call to 911. As soon as we know that there is a medical emergency, that there's something wrong in the vehicle, and our customer says, I need first responders, I need police, fire, or EMS, we quickly jump into that 2-advisor process, and we're immediately calling 911. So as you saw in the simulated call, things are happening simultaneously, and our call takers are multitasking, talking to 911, delivering EMD, and then communicating with each other through instant messenger. So we don't wait for any information. We contact immediately and allow the information to unfold as we're contacting 911.
Super.
Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah.
Are there other questions out there, Mallory?
I see one about the Onstar Guardian app. There is a charge. There are packages for the Guardian app. And if you go to our Onstar website, onstar.com, and click on the Guardian, Onstar Guardian, you'll be able to get information about package pricing and things like that.
Yeah. This has been great. Other questions?
As of now, I'm not saying anything else in the chat box, but I do encourage everyone to submit if you have anything on your mind.
I think there's some great lessons learned here in that, excellence is entirely possible for, our traditional 911 call centers and PSAPs. And, it's my contention for many years that if GM and OnStar can do this, there is no reason why our state and local 911 systems cannot achieve the same level of excellence. And so, I'm comfortable in being public about this, and that this is an expectation. And I would wager to say that there's probably more than a handful of, members of the community who believe that when they call their 911 system, that they're getting all these things that they believe to be true, which I think may not necessarily be the case in some instances. So I'm very appreciative of the work that GM and OnStar and Charlene and all of her colleagues and Jerry and Julie and all these people are doing in order to really enhance that true first responder. Not only in regards to sudden cardiac arrest, but a wide variety of time-sensitive, life-threatening emergencies. This is, again, publicly far exceeded my expectations for the webinar this afternoon. I'd like to know if there are other questions out there before we look to wrap up.
Well, while we're waiting for additional questions, I just want to thank you, Dave, for the opportunity to come in here and share the OnStar message and what we do when it comes to public safety and, you know, the importance of the work that we do. And, you know, I wish everyone well and be safe out there.
Yeah, again, thank you very, very much. So as always, everyone, it's like at the moment, right? Like a hot wash debriefing. I'd like for you to put into the chat box, you know, was this, you know, an engaging webinar, beneficial for you, feedback, you know, kind remarks, not so kind remarks, what you'd like to see in the future, you know, shake, shout, get it all out. Let us know how we're doing, because these are not for us, but for you. So please list your stuff when we have a moment. And as we wrap up, I'd once again like to thank and recognize the Citizen CPR Foundation for the opportunity to host these incredible webinars, for supporting them. Same to the partners of the Citizen CPR Foundation for their ongoing support. Our program advisory committee members, several of which are on the call today, and for all of the work that each of you do to improve outcomes and help people live longer, healthier lives. Your work does not go unnoticed, and it is very, very appreciated. With that, I will say thank you again. You know, remain in the positive, test negative, and get vaccinated as soon as possible. I hope to see you all in San Diego. Until next month, take care and thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Ciao.